Good morning. It is August 18th, 2023. It's Friday, baby. End of the week. So always fun stuff to end the week out. So here we go. So look at that. Phone already going off. All right. So by Lauren Jackson and Ian Prasad Philbrick. The New York Times Daily Newsletter. Here we go. Good morning. We're covering Ukraine's naval drones, Camp David, and subtitles. That's a hell of a headline. Subtitles, huh? Striking from afar. Ukrainian forces have been fighting a brutal counteroffensive for the past 2 months. Brutal insofar as it's not going well. Would be, brutal for them. Struggling to break through on land. Yep, because, 20 tanks isn't going to change a war. Yet they have made progress on another front, the Black Sea, a vital shipping route for both sides of the war. Last month, Russia withdrew from a deal that had allowed ships to safely export grain from the Ukraine across the Black Sea. Within days, Moscow bombarded Ukrainian ports and threatened foreign cargo ships. Ukraine responded by sending a new class of sea drone to attack Russian ships and infrastructure hundreds of miles away. That they have been doing that for a little while, so that's kind of not honest reporting. Ukraine is hoping the drones will keep Russia from controlling the sea and ultimately allow shipments to resume. Yesterday, civilian cargo ships sailed safely through Ukrainian waters in the Black Sea for the first time since the deal collapsed. Quote, the counteroffensive is often thought of too linearly as progress reclaiming territory, end quote. That's because that was the metric you initially established. You said you were going to take back land, you were going to take back Crimea, and now we changed the goalpost when it doesn't work out, said our colleague Mark Santora, who covers the war for Ukraine. Quote, just as important to the counteroffensive is Ukraine's ability to cut Russia's supply chain and attack Russia in deep positions, and that is what's happening in the Black Sea, end quote. Today's newsletter explains how the Black Sea became a hotspot and what it means for Ukraine's counteroffensive. Probably when we sunk their flagship with the help of U.S. forces, that probably was the thing that made the Russians go, well, time to up the ante. That's what you do, is you escalate. So a battleground, again, even before invading, Russia sought to be the dominant force in the Black Sea, which is bordered primarily by Russia, Ukraine, and 3 NATO countries. Upon invading, Russia decimated Ukraine's much smaller navy and blockaded its ports, while Ukraine fought back with missiles, sinking a major Russian ship, the flagship, and that was by help with the U.S. Moscow's warships were mostly able to sail with impunity, launching missiles at Ukrainian towns and cities. After both sides agreed to keep shipping routes across the water open in an international deal, an uneasy status quo held for nearly a year, Ukraine was able to export grain, propping up its economy and the global food supply, and Russia mostly refrained from attacking ports. But the deal was shaky. Russia complained that the terms favored Ukraine, which had kept launching small-scale attacks against the Russian-held Crimean Peninsula on the Black Sea, right, like blowing up a bridge several times. While international sanctions hurt the Russian economy, after repeated threats, Russia quit the agreement last month. The deal's collapse drove up global grain prices and reopened the Black Sea as a major battleground. Quote, during that period when the corridor was open for grain, the Black Sea faded a bit from international attention. The closing of that corridor not only threatens global food supplies, but ushered in a new turbulent phase in the battle at sea, end quote. Explosive speedboats. Russia has made it clear it wants to keep its economic stranglehold on Ukrainian exports, but unlike at the beginning of the war, Kiev now has an agile weapon to fight back, an expanded fleet of sea drones. Similar to unstaffed aerial drones, the small vessels, often no longer than 18 feet, can travel hundreds of miles to strike or surveil targets. They are fast and stealthy and do not require Ukrainian sailors to risk their lives. Quote, the most common ones are sort of like unmanned speedboats that are packed with explosives, end quote, Mark said. Ukraine first used sea drones in a large-scale attack in October, striking Russia's naval base in Sevastopol. Interestingly, okay, so if you remember at the beginning of this article, it said that Russia was the one that started it up. Now they're acknowledging actually Ukraine started attacking Russia first. That's why the Russians backed out of the deal. After Ukraine developed its fleet of more sophisticated craft, meaning the U.S., the EU, and others, because the Ukrainians didn't do that. That was our money. Drones that could carry more explosives on board. This month, Ukrainian sea drones struck both a Russian warship near a naval port and a Russian oil tanker. Each drone costs only about $250,000 and can damage or destroy multi-million-dollar Russian warships. Because the drones are relatively new, they are now forcing Russia to develop sophisticated defense against them. It may have to devote more resources to protecting ships, ports, and bridges from attacks that threaten its economy and ability to resupply troops. Quote, "We're now in a place where Ukraine can increasingly fight back at sea." A shifting strategy. The sea drones are an example of how Ukraine has gotten creative to outsmart a more powerful, better armed opponent. That's rare that they admit that Russia is considerably more powerful and better armed. Usually we try and say how the Ukrainians are, better equipped with NATO weaponry and all of that stuff, trying to sell the war for us. Wars often inspire naval innovations. The American Civil War saw the first clash between ironclad warships. World War I introduced widespread submarine warfare. World War II showed the superiority of aircraft carriers over battleships. Even if it fails to turn the tide of war, Ukraine's pioneering use of sea drones may have had a similar effect. It is the first country to use sea drones at a large scale in war, and both sides have deployed large numbers of aerial drones to target artillery, drop bombs, and attack cities. Drone war is the new way. That's the future of warfare. Swarms is going to be the thing. Ukraine's attack on Svetoslav was the first in history to use both sea and aerial drones. Quote, "Every military expert I've spoken to said that moment is going to be studied for years to come as a moment where naval warfare globally shifted." I would agree with that. More Ukraine news this morning. Russia said it intercepted a drone in Moscow and that it stopped a sea drone attack in the Black Sea. Ship operators are nervous of sailing near Ukraine after a Russian patrol ship fired warning shots at a cargo ship and Russian forces temporarily boarded it. The U.S. will allow its allies to sell American-made F-16 fighter jets to Kiev once Ukrainian pilots are trained to fly them. Remember, Biden said that was World War III. He also said it was World War III when we gave him cluster bombs and tanks. So basically, every time they say, well, we can't do that because it's World War III, they do it, meaning they want World War III. That seems to be the intended goal here. What a goal to have, huh? I suppose it does keep Hunter Biden out of the news. Lawyers for Donald Trump asked the judge to delay the start of his federal trial over the January 6th until 2026. Why not? Seeing as how you waited 2 years to indict him and you could have done it right away, but you waited till it was politically convenient to do so, you might as well do that. That's how negotiation works. Some experts predicted that only 1 or 2 of Trump's indictment trials will take place next year. Officials in Georgia are investigating online threats against the grand jurors who voted to indict Trump. Probably a good chunk of them coming from fake leftists to make it seem like the right is ultra-violent. Remember, it's the left that shot Steve Scalise. It's the left that tried to murder Brett Kavanaugh and various other officials. But you always want to blame the right for violence. It's hilarious how that works out. Summer of Love, rioting for 9 months straight. And then the right had a selfie insurrection and you act like it was worse. Let's see. So a super PAC belonging to Ron DeSantis wants him to take a sledgehammer at next week's debate to Vivek. No, that would be a bad decision for Ron. Ron is toast. He cannot. Deepfake DeSantis is done. There's really no coming back from that. Vivek is on the rise. My prediction is that DeSantis is going to drop out relatively soon. Vivek will become Trump's VP after a spirited campaign. I think they'll debate each other. I think Trump is aware of the fact that he doesn't want to destroy Ramaswamy and that the two of them will crush Biden come 2024. That is my opinion, but that's what I think will happen. Though I would like to see Vivek just win it all. I just don't see that's realistic. Federal prosecutors recommended that 2 Proud Boy leaders should each be sentenced to 33 years in prisons for their action on Jan 6. So just to be clear here, 2 guys. You got 2 guys convicted of seditious conspiracy. I think that the total of them is maybe less than 20 that have real serious felonies. There's maybe 30 to 50 that have felonies for assault. The rest of them are in jail for trespassing. This is the worst attack on American soil since 9/11. Or it was just a minor riot where everybody left entirely on their own. One interesting thing I want to point out about the Georgia, because it's obviously not going to talk about this anymore. So remember when they posted the charging documents before the jury came out, which kind of proved that it was a rigged event anyway. They were already going to charge him no matter what. Then they said, they put out a statement claiming that that document was fake. It was fictitious, they said. Okay, that means a crime had to take place. So just starting on their initial explanation was it was fake. Well, if it's fake, it's a crime to post a fake document to a government server. So whomever did that committed a crime because they created a fake document, then posted it on a government server. Or they hacked into a government server and then posted the fake document. Either way, that's a crime. Now, the following day, we got an admission from the prosecutor's office that it was just a mistake. Those were the correct charging documents. We, of course, knew that because it had a case number, it had the dates, and they were the same charges that they eventually levied against them anyway. They did drop a couple of them off. So now you're admitting that the document that was posted to the government server was in fact real. So the statement that you made claiming that it was fake initially was fraudulent. It was an outright lie. They knew it wasn't a fictitious document, so they're lying now. They were lying at one of those 2 points, and since they posted it to a government server, it's fraud. It's a computer crime. There's multiple laws that were violated, but of course, nobody's talking about that. Why would we do that? Back to the news. Biden's foreign policy. The leaders of Japan and South Korea will join President Biden at Camp David today. The meeting is a diplomatic milestone for the Asian countries, which have a bitter history. Little bit. I don't know that I would call it a milestone. It's not like they haven't met before. The milestone might be that it's just the two of them talking while Joe Biden sleeps. White House officials have been holding meetings to generate support among Democratic senators for a pact between Saudi Arabia and Israel. We'll see how that goes. Climates. The chief of Maui's emergency management agency resigned after facing criticism for not sounding alert sirens during the fires. Well, that's good. He should also go to prison because people died as a result of his incompetence. And the guy who refused to release the water also should go to prison for that. Rains from Hurricane Hillary, a Category 4 storm, are set to hit the Southwest today. Why no mention of climate change? Isn't it climate change? Because all weather is climate change now. Wait, I'm sorry. Global boiling. A wildfire is approaching Yellowknife, Canada. Residents have quickly packed bags and left. Indonesia's stock of nickel, a mineral used to make electric vehicles batteries, are caught in the fight between the United States and Canada. Mortgage rates in the U.S. reached a 21-year high, climbing back above 7%. Good news for the rich, bad news for everybody else, as we're all squeezed out of home ownership. The average price for a starter home is like $230,000 now, something like that, which is absolutely out of range for the majority of people. Hong Kong stocks are in a bear market, a sign that investors are pessimistic about China's post-pandemic recovery. I wonder if it's going to mention that Evergrande filed for bankruptcy today. Probably not, because why would we do that? We support China, or at least the Times does. Other big stories. As the school year begins, a shortage of bus drivers across the U.S. is making it hard for students to get to class, maybe if you paid them more. Middle-aged adults are binge drinking and using marijuana at record levels. Well, that's because the economy is horrible. I mean, you say it's great, but it's not. You can tell that because when things are going bad, people start using drugs more. A leader of the Southern Baptist Convention resigned over the discovery that he falsified academic credentials on his resume. What, like Biden? Biden claimed he was the top of the class, and everybody let him go on that. I guess Baptists have more morals. Tired of the fashion industry's one-size-fits-some whims? Make your own clothes or lose weight. Here's a column by David Brooks on marriage. It's a failing institution, and no-fault divorce ruined it. So that's simple. Summer holiday. Inside British Prime Minister's vacation to Disneyland. Who cares? A discovery the Instagram account convulsed a high school. Modern love. She came out of the closet and went into the garden. Taking a break. The Blackhawks. Why haven't we changed that name? Isn't it racist? Legend Jonathan Toews said he would step away from hockey for the 23-24 season, but emphasized he is not retiring. That's an interesting play. I think Gretzky did that too, though, didn't he? Didn't he take a year off? The NBA has released its full regular season schedule for the upcoming season. Woo. Case of the mumbles. If you find yourself turning on the subtitles to watch TV, you aren't alone. About 50% of Americans and the majority of young people watch TV with captions on most of the time. Dialogue is really getting harder to understand, experts say, as TV speakers get thinner and weaker. And unlike traditional broadcasts, which adhere to a set volume limit, streaming services each have their own audio standards. I don't know. I kind of like subtitles because it kind of, you're reading something as you're listening. Sometimes speech gets mumbled or something like that. So I kind of like subtitles. I don't mind them. There's a pile of just, what do we got? Blister, tomatoes, and add farro. We just have food. Just show me food once. Protect your hearing with earplugs at live shows. That's not bad advice. Wear a fan around your neck. It may look silly, but it works. Yeah, it looks silly, so just don't even worry about it. So, all right. Well, there we go. That ends the day's news. So have a good one.